Hey guys, Robbie Falk here from On 3, Maroon and White Daily, covering Mississippi State sports and all things Mississippi State sports. And right now, basketball season might be over, but some really good news from Mississippi State on this Maroon Friday as Chris Jans and company took a huge step forward for that 2024-2025 basketball season. And it started early on in the day. Some hints started getting out on the message board. Paul Jones was on top of this, had this story ready to break, and he broke this news around lunchtime on Friday that Mississippi State had landed Penn State point guard Kanye Clary, who was the team's leading scorer. He was dismissed from the team, and that's obviously brought up some questions, and we'll get to that, but was the team's leading scorer, averaged nearly 17 points a ball game, excellent free throw shooter, hit a few three-pointers this year as well, and just a tremendous pickup for Mississippi State in their backcourt to go along with Josh Hubbard. We talked all year long about how Mississippi State had to get some pieces around Josh Hubbard to make this a more fluent offense for Mississippi State moving forward. Just simply having that one guy that can beat you is not enough in this league and in the NCAA tournament. Mississippi State has to have more pieces around him, and this is a huge step forward for the Bulldogs. You now have a point guard that can score like Josh Hubbard to kind of add to what you already get with the dynamic freshman that you saw this year in Hubbard. And this is a sophomore this season is Clary, so he has 2 more seasons to go with the Bulldogs. This is a big-time pickup for Chris Jans. This kind of goes against the grain of what he was kind of looking for the last couple of years, I think, in the transfer portal. It looks like to me early on in this process that Jans is going for a more offensive approach. And that's not to say that Clary is a guy that can't defend, because I think that he can. And I think in Chris Jans' system, he will be able to defend and help Mississippi State there on that side of the ball. But he's a more offensive-minded player. And as Chris Jans now looking more towards the current landscape of basketball, where a lot of teams are going out there and scoring a lot of points, the teams in the SEC that we've seen do that have been really successful. When you look at what Kentucky has done this year, although they went out early in the tournament, that's a team that was top half of the league. Alabama won the SEC. Auburn, while they're defensive-minded too, can really score the basketball. Tennessee can do it as well. Chris Jans is kind of, to me, adjusting a little bit and playing more chameleon role and adjusting to what the game is calling for right now. I don't think that's going to change what he demands from a defensive perspective. I think he's going to demand more, and he did this year from Josh Hubbard. I thought Josh Hubbard got better on the defensive end this season. I think you'll see that as well from a Kanye too. So to me, this is a huge pickup for the Bulldogs to get a guy like this that can score like that. And his freshman year averaged, I think, 4 points or something like that. Made that big of a jump here as a sophomore to come in there and average and lead the team in scoring and average nearly 17 points a game was huge. Now you got 2 guys that they get fouled, they get to the free throw line, and they make their baskets there, but they can also score from 3 different levels. They can drive to the basket and get you points there by putting their head down. And I think that this is a guy that can do it even better than Josh Hubbard. To me, I think he can drive in there. He's a hard-nosed guy, can get in there and score some tough baskets for you. He can hit from the mid-range, and he can shoot from 3. Left-handed guy, so a little bit different, but he can definitely score it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I take away from this is Mississippi State is now going to have 2 really good scorers there at the guard positions. Now, a couple of, I won't say cons, but maybe the worrisome part of Kanye for Mississippi State fans. First and foremost, he's 5'11". Josh Hubbard, I think, is 5'10". So people start to question, can Mississippi State have 2 guys that size in the backcourt? I think it can work just fine. If you can score, you can score. Josh Hubbard proved that this season when he went out there at 5'10" and averaged 16 points a game. And he was scoring against just about anybody you wanted to score against. The size, to me, was not that big of an issue for him. I don't think it's going to be a big issue either for Clary. And this is a guy, too, that they played in a tough conference from a defensive perspective. That's like Big Ten is maybe not as much as it used to be, but because the game has evolved everywhere. But the Big Ten is one of the toughest defensive conferences in America. So it's not like this guy was going up against a bunch of cupcakes defensively. He was going up against some hard-nosed defenses and scoring some tough points. So that to me is not a concern. The other thing that people are concerned about maybe is, why was he dismissed from the team? So let's talk about that. From what I understand, there were maybe some disagreements by Clary and Penn State in his NIL situation there, which, he is a guy that had upped his game to the point where he went from, middle of the pack on the roster to the top dog on the roster because he was leading the team in scoring. And from my understanding, that caused a little bit of a rift between himself and the coaching staff and the people at Penn State. Everything I've heard is it was a mutual parting of ways there. He wanted to leave. Penn State said, then go ahead and leave, and so he did. The coaching staff at Mississippi State, everything that I've heard is that they have done their due diligence on this. They see no red flags with Kanye. They see a guy that can come in here and compete and help them win, and there's nothing to be concerned about from a standpoint of him being a locker room problem or anything like that. So Chris Jans is a guy, and here's what I'll say about Jans, and I know that the situation there at his old job was the roster there brought some concerns to Mississippi State fans of how, this roster would look. But Jans is a very particular guy in who he takes. And I don't think he has any problem passing on a good player that he believes is going to be a problem in the locker room or something like that. He is a guy that is going to make sure that he gets the right people for his basketball team. And like I said, he has no problem cutting bait or just skipping over a player if he believes they're going to disrupt what he's doing in the locker room from a culture standpoint. And if he signs off on it, then I feel perfectly safe believing that this is a guy that has checked all the boxes for Chris Jans. So it doesn't seem to be any issues there in that regard. It looks like he's going to be a really good addition for Mississippi State. So good get for the Bulldogs. Nice move in the right direction. Mississippi State's got to have some really good pickups here out of the transfer portal. You're going to have to put together a roster here that takes up, nearly half of your guys out of the transfer portal. You're losing some players. You're going to recruit over some players. So Chris Jans has got to go out there and get some really good players to fill out this roster and make Mississippi State competitive once again in this league and competing for another NCAA tournament. And this is a good step in the right direction. As far as the players returning, Sean Jones, who was a big part of Mississippi State's plans either off the bench or starting this year, he announced on Thursday he's returning back to Mississippi State. And, I've seen some mixed results from people and what they think of that, but I think it's good for Mississippi State to have some retention, some players that have been there, that have done things. At some point, you have to start developing players on rosters these days and, can continue to build that continuity that you have. And I think Sean Jones adds that. Plus, he's a tough defender, plays hard, does things the right way, wants to be here. I see no issue with him returning back to Mississippi State next year. So, that's to me a good piece for Mississippi State. And also on Friday, one of the biggest announcements of the offseason is going to be Cam Matthews. And he announces on Friday he's returning for his final year at Mississippi State. You're talking about quite possibly one of the biggest glue guys, I guess you can say, in the conference. A guy that can defend, can rebound, can get to the rim and score. About the only thing that he can't do is shoot the ball. Other than that, this is a guy that does just about everything. He was Mississippi State's heart and soul for the last 2 or 3 years, was huge this season in so many big moments, especially against Tennessee in 2 ball games there and against Auburn. Those 3 top 10 wins that Mississippi State was able to corral. Cam Matthews was huge in those games, and he was big all season long. So we have known that this was coming. We knew that Josh Hubbard was going to come back. We knew that Cam Matthews was going to come back, but now we have an official announcement. I don't know if we'll get an official announcement on Josh Hubbard. I think it's just kind of understood at this point, but Cam Matthews does make that decision, and that's, to me, getting him and Josh Hubbard back was critical for Mississippi State. That was 1A and 1B for the Bulldog Initiative and for Chris Jans to make sure that he was back next year, or both of those guys, because those are the guys that you build your team around. And I think a big reason why Kanye Clary decides to come to Mississippi State is a guy like Josh Hubbard. I think Josh Hubbard and Cam Matthews and now Clary, those guys are going to be pieces that you can build around and pieces that players want to play with. Players are going to want to come to Mississippi State because of those guys. Because that at the end of the day, you want to feel like you have a good nucleus around you if you're coming to Mississippi State to compete for compete in the SEC and compete for the NCAA tournament. So that's huge news for the Bulldogs to get those three back already. Kind of waiting around to see what Shaquille Moore does. He's got one more year. Keyshawn Murphy is also waiting. We're waiting to hear what he does. As of right now, both those guys seem to be leaning towards coming back, but we don't really know. We'll have to wait and see. And obviously, we will keep you up to speed on that. And I just want to tell you, if you are a fan of the transfer portal, if you like the recruiting piece of everything, and you are you kind of want to be up to date on all that stuff, there's only one place where you can go that is killing that right now, and that's Maroon and White Daily. We have a 58-page thread, I think, right now. It's up to like over 50,000 views on our site, where our posters are really driving that traffic on that and driving the conversation on the transfer portal. They're posting things, every other minute. And shout out to our guy, Dog Season, who is just obsessed with this stuff. I love it. But he's posting something, every few minutes on a new guy into the portal. We have people with intel on our site. That's one of the great things about our message board is we have members who have intel that can give things that, we can't report, we can't come out and say. Or, in some cases, some of these guys know more than us in certain situations. That's what makes our site and our community so good, is it's not just the insiders, myself and Paul Jones, that are bringing you information. We're getting information from people that are just like you, that are fans, that just love Mississippi State. So you guys got to come check it out. We have a $1 deal for the first month. And if you've never been on a message board, you've never been on a website like this, I encourage you to come check it out. You have access to us. You want to ask us questions. We're there answering your questions at all times, pretty much. And you have access to other information that people are bringing to that site, because these fans are so passionate about Mississippi State. And we love those guys, and we'd love for you to come check us out. I mean, we are, right now, we are the source of information for the transfer portal, and that's where you're going to find it, right there on Maroon and White Daily. So come check us out. $1 for the first month. I mean, you can't beat that, and you're going to want to stay beyond that. So come see us. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, I encourage you to do that as well. As we'll have reaction videos and Talkin Dawgs videos and all kinds of stuff coming your way throughout the year. The grind never stops covering Mississippi State sports. So appreciate you guys. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to Maroon and White Daily. Subscribe to the newsletter that we got over there too, where we are delivering you the news straight to your email every single morning. And you can check that out just right from your email. Click on the links from there. So come check us out. We also got, I'm watching the softball game right now, Mississippi State and Florida playing in a 3-2 ball game. The Bulldogs had an unbelievable win last night against the number 9 Gators, coming back from 6 runs down in the 6th inning to take the lead and eventually win that ball game. Just a huge win over the Gators, and they're trying to come back here in this one to get another win. And the baseball Bulldogs are down in Gainesville playing Florida in baseball. So, we'll have the game thread of that tonight. You can follow that. Keep up with the game as the game goes, and then we'll have a story after the game, obviously, too. We'll be covering that all weekend. So we are covering everything we possibly can. Paul Jones and myself, we got our hands full, but we love it, and we'd love to have you come join us. So come check us out. All right, guys. Hope you guys have a great Good Friday. Remember the reason for this season, and also Easter Sunday. I hope you guys enjoy whatever you're partaking in there, whether it be at church or elsewhere. I hope you guys have a great Easter weekend, and we will catch you down the road.